published, 634 EDT, the 16th of May 2018, updated, 951 EDT, the 16th of May 2018. John Clayton, 41, killed himself after struggling to get help for postnatal depression following the birth of his son. He was found dead in 2016 in his Cardiff home. A father suffered from postnatal depression following their birth of his son, killed himself just days after throwing a huge party for his friends. University researcher John Clayton took his own life aged 41 in November of 2016, leaving his young son Hugo, who is now nearly 5, to grow up without a father. His ex-wife Vicky Clayton, 38, said he had struggled to get the help he needed after his mental health suffered following Hugo's birth in 2013. Vicky said she was suffering from postnatal depression but then realized John was too, and is now trying to raise awareness that the mental illness can also affect men. Vicky said, the culmination of being a father was a very big thing for John. It's often overlooked that men also suffer from postnatal depression. Everything is very much focused on mothers, as you would expect, but having lived my life the way I have over the last 5 years, I wish there was a lot more pointers for men to access help. It was a very difficult situation. Hugo was 8 weeks old when we moved to Cardiff so that he could study animal geographies at Cardiff University. We left our entire support network behind and didn't know anybody in Cardiff. John was very up and down, and it was probably about 9 months after our son's birth that their cracks really started to show. John saw his doctor, was on the right medication and was seeing a counselor. Luckily he accessed one through the university, otherwise he would have been on a 6-month waiting list for an NHS counselor. His ex-wife Vicky Clayton, 38, said he had struggled to get the help he needed after his mental health suffered following the birth of their son Hugo in 2013. Pictured, Vicky and Hugo. Many mothers suffer from postnatal depression right after giving birth. But experts argue it doesn't just affect women, adamant that fathers can be plagued by its symptoms too. Desperate to be part of the newborn's first few weeks, many can feel sidelined due to the lack of time they spend with them due to the mother's initial role. This causes them to suffer from the same side effects, including a loss of libido. Dr. Yaprak Harrison, from UT Southwestern Medical Center, Dallas, said, dads want to be part of the newborn experience, but often they feel like they're on the outside. Mums may not always realize they're excluding dad from caring for the baby, and they may fail to realize that he wants time with the little one, too. He was behind research that found 1 in 10 men struggle with the psychiatric condition after the birth of their child. New fathers experience the same mood-altering hormonal changes, they believe. Some of the symptoms they display are also similar, including extreme fatigue and changes in sleeping habits. However, men are less likely to be weepy, meaning the disorder is often overlooked in new fathers. John moved to Cardiff Bay from Exeter, Devon, with his Vicky and their son Hugo in September 2013. Unfortunately, John and Vicky's marriage didn't last and she moved back to Exeter, but they remained good friends and usually spoke on a daily basis. Hugo is now nearly 5 years old and tragically, he will only have pictures to remember John. Vicky said, "It was devastating, I was obviously heartbroken. For almost a decade of my life John was my best friend and co-parent of my child. To lose someone like that I felt hurt and angry, but also desperately sad knowing there was nothing I could have done to help or stop it. Although we had separated we were still in touch pretty much on a daily basis because of our young son. He had once said he felt suicidal but said he was not going to kill himself, and I never thought I would. He had so much to live for with his PhD and his family and friends. Although he was under financial pressure and was not always stable, he seemed to be living a good life. He was a very bright, clever man who had a very stressful job. The Samaritan's most recent suicide report revealed in 2015 there were 6,188 suicides registered in the UK. The highest suicide rate was for men aged 40 to 44 years old. Vicky added, "I think he started to mask the issue and I don't know if that was because the services he were receiving were not enough. His last doctor's appointment was 3 weeks before his suicide and he said he was in great spirits and was presenting to the world that everything was okay. He even threw a huge party the weekend before he died. I will never know if that was goodbye party or if he was genuinely happy when he did it. John was found dead by a friend in November 2016 in Cardiff, aged 41 years old. At an inquest earlier this year, it was also revealed John, who was studying for a PhD at Cardiff University, had asked the university for a hardship grant 3 days before he killed himself. John Clayton moved to Cardiff Bay, pictured, from Exeter, Devon, with his Vicky and their son Hugo in September 2013. A persistent feeling of sadness and low mood, lack of enjoyment and loss of interest in the wider world, lack of energy and feeling tired all the time, trouble sleeping at night and feeling sleepy during the day, difficulty bonding with your baby, withdrawing from contact with other people, problems concentrating and making decisions, frightening thoughts, for example, about hurting your baby. Source: NHS Choices. The hearing was told he died not realizing his request for money had in fact been approved. After his death, it was 2 weeks before Vicky could bring herself to tell their son, who then was only 3.5 years old. She said, "It's very difficult explaining to a child the gravity of what's happened. All you can do is take it day by day, and I have been incredibly lucky to have found a local suicide bereavement service called Pete's Dragons. I have known people whose fathers have died and they have gone on to lead quite difficult lifestyles as it affected their mental health massively. That's why I have to make sure I do things properly for Hugo and make sure his mental health is looked after. That is my priority." Vicky says she would like to see more support and services aimed specifically at men so that no other families have to suffer the loss they have. She said, "I think there is a gap in the professional help people are given because John denied how serious things were to other people. There are services for people in crisis, but the terrible thing about depression is what low point do you get to before you actually feel like you're in crisis? By that time it's too late. Suicide is such an emotive subject, and it's particularly difficult for men to talk about their feelings, which is why I think statistics are so incredibly high for male suicides. There's an element of them not wanting to reach out for help or wanting to be a burden. They feel like it emasculates them by asking for help. It also needs to be much more of a community thing so that men can open up to friends, in workplaces and in social areas where men frequently go. It's important guys look after guys. Life is difficult and stressful, and we all live in our own little bubbles, but it's about visibility and not being ashamed to say you have mental health problems. For confidential support, call the Samaritans on 116,123 or visit a local Samaritans branch. See www.samaritans.org for details.